this was something I would like to talk on. Now let us start with a very old quote, and this dates to almost 5 centuries back. That there is widespread corruption all around and children do not listen to the parents. So this must be true even today. And this has been a problem which I think we all have faced, we still face. And this was also one of the premises on which, in one of my previous stints, we started a sort of a movement of launching moral education in schools. In fact, I was in Bhilai Steel Plant schools for quite some time, around 5 years, and some problem with the audio.
No, it's fine, sir.
Okay. So in 2011, we had a bit of a brainstorming, 2010-11, that this is something which we need to do, because in society we're facing all sorts of issues related to morality, ethics, dishonesty, and other things. So where do we start? So let us start with schools. So we had a huge network of schools, and we started by setting up ethics clubs in 7 schools in 2011. We took inspiration from Kendriya Vidyalaya. We took inspiration from Bharat Petroleum, where they had integrity clubs in their schools. So we set up ethics clubs in 7 schools initially, and then we gradually expanded that to 21 schools in 3 years. We also introduced the concept of ethics buddies, in which we attached employees who volunteered to join these ethics clubs as their friend, their mentors. And this we wanted to further expand to become a model for the organization as a whole, though we have not been able to make that progress. But my thought process starts with these values that we had then. I would like to share those core values. I'm not able to move the slides. Yeah, the core values of the ethics club. And I just wanted to share, because these are some of the values I have taken for today's discussion as well. Integrity, love, patriotism, compassion, tolerance, responsibility, secularism, respect, simplicity, non-violence, honesty, and unity. So these are the 12 values which the ethics clubs were assigned. They had to align around them, organize around them, and then have a set of activities, a calendar of activities throughout the year, some to be done at the level of the schools and some at the level of centrally at the level of the education department. Now let us again go back to a quotation which says, everything has been said before, but since nobody listens, we have to keep going back and begin all over again. So even again today, when we are talking about this, what I am going to say is nothing new. What I'm going to put down here is just a train of thoughts that has come to me, but this is nothing new. So coming to the actually what really affects us, what really makes us. So we all have received some upbringing in our families. We have received some education in the schools that we have gone to, the teachers who have looked after us. And these are the people, our family, our society, our schools, our teachers, our peers. They all give us a set of values which we continue to cherish. And again, these are all reinforced by our experiences. Whether this value is right or wrong has to do a lot by our experience. I remember being pretty brash and uncompromising in of my past assignments, because as Saurabh Banwar said, I have worked in different areas, and most of these areas have been related to public dealing. And I found that I would be very blunt and outspoken in one of my previous assignments. But over the years, based on my own experience and an appreciation of the fact that people have certain expectations from you, I have changed. I've become more patient. I listen. I take a call and then take a decision. There are no instant, no quick decisions right now. So experiences play a lot important role in the values that we cherish and follow. So these are the values that help us run the show in our day-to-day working, and also help us make the decisions that we make day in, day out. Choices and decisions are two things that we have to make always, whether we like it or not. We always talk of or always blame maybe organizational culture. Certain things are not working in an organization. But let us understand that organizations don't make choices or decisions. It is individuals who make choices and the decisions. And their value systems, the beliefs that they have, what they think is right or wrong, these are the things that are important. Now, again, in a particular position, we all make a decision based on what are the boundaries of the organization, the liberties that we have, the financial powers that we have, the authorities that we have. That is quite understandable. But our value systems, the beliefs that we have, that we strongly believe in those values, they help us take a decision, right or wrong. So whether we like it or not, we have to make choices, we have to make decisions, and it happens in all sorts of organizations. Even when we don't make a choice, we decide that we don't want to make a choice. We keep silent on that. Now, what affects human behavior? I've already talked about it earlier, but just to repeat it, the organization also has a role to play in influencing a participant's behavior, a member's behavior. And that, to a great extent, depends on the commitment of the leader or the organizational culture. The incident that I narrated at the start of my presentation, the accident that we had less than 2 years back, and the fact that as many as 14 people had passed away because of a small mistake. The new leader, what he did was he showed a lot of compassion, showed his commitment, and this immediately aligned the entire team. When he came in, he was coming in from a different setup or different steel plant, and he could very early, in a very short time, sense the fact that the confidence of the entire team has gone down because of this abrupt accident. And so that is why he gave the real sort of thrust to what we should do, assuage the feelings of the people. So that in a way helped. And because the organization as a whole per se had a strong bonding culture, he was helped by the people. Then there are also individual factors that affect human behavior. As we have already mentioned and discussed, we come to work with different values based on the personal values, our morals, our family influences, our peer influences, our life experiences. In fact, I was talking to somebody who looks after recruitment, and we were discussing how things go right or wrong. Why are at times the wrong people selected, and they don't fit into the organization, and they leave early, or they are left out, they are thrown out, or whatever. Why does that happen? And one of the factors that came out of that discussion is that the value systems that they prescribe to, that has to play a major role in that. Unfortunately, at the level of screening or selection, we are not able to really go deep into the person's mind. We judge the person on intellect or personality or behavior for a short time, but we are not able to really find out the value system that is there in the individual, whether it will align with the organization or not. That we are not able to do. So this is a very important reason why certain people, some very good people, fail to stay back in the organization. Now, there are a host of factors that affect ethical behavior, and whether we like it or not, there are a number of issues that plague organizations today. And these are some of the points that you see on screen. On the screen are just a few prominent ones. There could be more. There's a lot of conflict of interest that affects organizations. I may be knowing a supplier, I may be knowing a contractor. My wife may be an insurance agent, and I might be using my influence or position to put some pressure on others. Then there are also quality control issues. The output that we are supposed to give, are we really following the norms? Are we really following the standards? Are we not trying to fool the customer? If we are doing that, that is unethical. Then I talked about hiring, recruitment. Are we discriminating in hiring and promotion? That is an important fact. Because if that feeling, that message goes that we are discriminating in hiring or promotion, there is a possibility of disenchantment in people. And that can damage the organization in a very subtle way, slowly. We are all privy to a lot of proprietary information when we are in responsible positions, even otherwise, even a clerk maybe or a boy in the office may be privy to proprietary information. And it is very important that we don't divulge it to those who may be looking to get benefit out of it. Even we may have to keep it secret from some of our team members. So anyway, this is also one area where a lot of pilferage happens, and that can affect the ethical performance of individuals in the organization. Then we have a lot of expense accounts and company assets which have been given to us to do our jobs fairly or facilitate our jobs. So we get a lot of funds to look after. We also have certain facilities in the office, or so if you have a vehicle or something like that. These things should not be abused or misused. That is very important. Then we have other dysfunctionalities like drug and alcohol abuse, absenteeism. We should also be looking at the fact that we are maintaining and we are following all the statutory norms related to environment. We are not damaging the environment, or we are not doing anything which is not required for the organization to do. And this list could, expand based on inputs from other members who are here. So I've just discussed a few of them. Recently, I had an opportunity to talk to a group of young managers who have joined SAIL early this year in one of the sessions during their induction program. And I asked them, what are the few characteristics of the person they want to be known as? So they gave us a lot. They gave a lot of responses, and I would like to share some of the responses from these people. And these are: they want to be morally upright, helping nature, sticking to values, simple, empathetic, humble, respect for others, people who would like to stick to their words, honest, happy, hardworking, patient, consistent, people who value equality and love, discipline, people with integrity. So this looks like a very good wish list, but believe me, these youngsters who have just come in have a very good value system. At least they are thinking in the right direction, and it is for the senior pros in the organization to ensure that what they are really looking for, they get to see visibly in the organization. They get to see the people they are reporting to, or the peers they are working with, or the other people in the organization are working, that these are the values that are being given importance. Sometimes, like I remember even in my time, 30 years back when I joined, I had some of these values in my mind, and often I found that some of these values are not being given importance, and that they are not important at all, maybe to the organization as a whole. Now here I come to what I have described as the HIT model, and believe me again, it was not meant to catch your attention. It just came to me. It's a work in progress, and it is basically based on three pillars of honesty, integrity, and transparency. In fact, these are the three values I believe are pretty important for us to uh, live ethically in organizations. By following some of the key points that go with them, we have to follow them to be able to live and survive ethically in organizations. And as I said earlier also, this is not the last word on it. Please free to add your points, your views, and even raise your questions. Now coming to the first one, honesty. We have been told since our childhood, honesty is the best policy. And believe me, it is still. At least it is, from my personal experience, it has not hurt anybody, not even me. So you have to always tell the truth. Even your team members, your peers, your colleagues, they prefer honesty and openness. Then once they know that you are an honest person, and whatever you do or whatever you say, they're happy with it. An honest person can always explain lack of information. There are situations when we are not in a position to explain certain things. So if you are honest, if you're known to be an honest person, you can explain that lack of information to your team members. Transparency also demands honest opinion. In fact, the other pillar, transparency of this model, also demands honest opinion. And if you're transparent and honest, you can give the bad news pretty well. You can describe anything that has gone wrong correctly. An honest person also accepts mistakes and removes the fear of failure from his team members' psyche, which is very important. In fact, the type of organization that I'm working, which is a continuous process industry, there is a lot of pressure on us because failure means it could be a chain reaction. So, but if the leader is ready to accept mistakes and remove the fear of failure from his team members, half the battle is won. And an honest leader has also an advantage, which can be useful at times. He can explain reasons for failure to keep his or her own word. Now we come to integrity. Now again, the definition of integrity, if you look at you'll find different explanations. But here are some of the points I believe would fall in this bracket. That your action should match your words. Do not promise what you're going to deliver. Act in sync with the values you cherish. Believe me, it doesn't take much time for people to understand the value system that you ascribe to or subscribe to. So keep on acting in sync with that. Don't deviate, don't make any exceptions. Be very cool, very composed, strong, patient, and wise in all the situations. There are situations where there is a tendency, there is a temptation to come out, express your anger, but don't do that. Keep your cool, maintain your integrity, even in your behavior. If a leader is role modeling such behaviors, then they have the power to change the organization culture. And finally, the third pillar, transparency. All your dealings, including communications, have to be unambiguous. We sometimes try to become a bit smart in some of our wordings and writings and replies, but please, no ifs and buts. You have to be very clear. If you can express honest opinion, if there is honesty in the way you deal, that is transparency. Mentioned earlier, bad news has to be delivered well, and don't hide anything, be transparent. When you accept mistakes, even exhibiting vulnerability, often we see, and it is also expected of people in leadership positions or even otherwise, that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. I'm reminded of an excellent example in this. I'm sure all of you have watched or even read about the life of Gandhi, or watched the movie Gandhi. And there is a scene there where there is a new law that has been introduced by the white regime in South Africa, where Gandhi has just gone and has started getting to know the realities there of how they are being treated as lesser people. And there is this new law about passes for the non-whites, which is very discriminatory. So he is addressing a large public gathering where there is even the presence of the British police. And there he openly says, and that is very important. If you have can remember, that is fine. If not, please go back and watch that clip. He very clearly says that I cannot fight my opponents with violence. I cannot do that. That is why he very clearly tells the people that he has chosen non-violence as a tool because he cannot fight them with violence. He does not have that authority, he does not have that power, does not have the tools of violence. And so he uses his weakness as a strength. And we have seen how that model succeeded. It might have taken a lot of time for that model to succeed. But that has succeeded, and it has found echoes in other revolutions around the world. We have seen the US civil rights movement, how that has happened, and how Martin Luther used Gandhian principles to fight the might of the whites in USA and win back some civil rights for them. We have even seen Nelson Mandela getting converted. Nelson Mandela initially started with the African National Congress. They had a pitched battles, their wars. They fought in streets and townships with the white regime, and they could not succeed. So he switched to non-violence. So I think weakness became a strength, and that is an excellent example of that. Going on, accepting failure in a setup like we have an organization I found in a process industry that can also lead to proper analysis and improve performance. And anybody who has followed all this requires credibility and respect in the eyes of his team members and the organization as a whole. So to sum up, what we need to do, and this list would need definitely a lot of input from all the participants here. Improve your interpersonal skills, be considerate, be kind, exhibit respect for people, take responsibility, accept mistakes, discuss, not argue, keep promises and commitment, be grateful, forgive and forget, create tolerance and understanding in people through role modeling, and then practice, finally, honesty, integrity, and transparency. This is all I had in my short presentation, and I would be very happy to take questions or suggestions and views from other participants. Thank you.